Hello everyone, today I will talk about what methods and functions are. So the first and most obvious thing, methods and functions are almost the same thing. A function is a broader name and a method usually belongs to a specific class. If you are not familiar with programming at all, you probably don't understand all this. In that case, just assume that it is the same thing so that you don't hear it. The question is then, what is it in general? Do you remember the game edible and inedible? For example, chocolate edible, tractor inedible, fried eggs edible, chair inedible, etc. Well, we are observing a function that takes any object into parameters and responds with two values. Yes, that means edible, and no, that means inedible. Let's draw it like this. Function f of objects and response yes, edible, or no, inedible. Another well-known example from mathematics is function of x and graphs. I hope someone remembers this. So the graph is essentially a visualization of the function y equal f function of x. That is, we get same point x as an input and there is always y for each point x. Functions surround us everywhere and perhaps our whole world can be described with the help of certain functions. Let's go back to the example from the last lesson. In programming, we make the assumption that some methods may return nothing and even accept nothing. In real life, it can be anything without an instance response. For example, the function we had out of bed. We did some action, but there is no obvious result of this action. We know that something has changed in our life from this action, but in general, if the result is not important to us, then we can indicate that the function did not return anything. On the other hand, we can add a Boolean flag and return true if the action is successful or false if not. In fact, everything is at the discretion of our imagination. If you want to indicate the result of some action, then we indicate it. If it does not matter, we can assume that we are not return anything. Each program starts its life with the main method. The system itself calls the main method and we process it. In fact, every program begins with im. To process a method means to write what actions will take place in a particular method. Do you remember the example with the diary? We are filling the diary. A method also has a declaration, but unlike a variable, we can initialize it. But we can make a call of this method. That is, the method always has a declaration, but at the same time, it can also have a call. This is what the declaration of the new method looks like. This method takes any two numbers and returns the sum of these two numbers. The structure of the method declaration can be distinguished. It always has return type, name, arguments in brackets, and method body in curly brackets. The return type is the value that it returns. In Java, if the method does not return anything, then we write that it returns void, that is, emptiness. First, the name of the method can be any text. Second, arguments are what the method takes in. For example, the mathematical function f, function of x, take in the number x and returns the number y. Third, our function from the game edible and non-edible takes in any string word and returns a Boolean value where true means edible and false means inedible. Fourth, the arguments in the method are separated by commas. and their declaration looks exactly like the declaration of the variable. 5. The method body is the set of actions that are performed to get the desired result. In Java, if the method returns some value, then we must write the final result after the word return. The method call looks like this. What is worth noting first, inside the method brackets, when it called, argument values for this function are passed. That is the same that is written after the equal sign when we initialize a variable. Second, if the function itself also returns a specific value, then its result can be used for initializing another variable. Let's return to the structure of the sum function. In it, a and b are just the names of the arguments. These are variables that exist only in this method. They do not have a specific value. We literally say that for any a and any b with any values, we will have variables here. We will add. This works for all arguments in any method. Arguments in methods are such abstract variables without a specific value. A specific value will be passed when we call this method. And at the stage of creating methods, we can only assume what values their arguments will have. Let's take another example from mathematics. Does anyone remember the parabola? Y equals x squared or y equals x multiplied by x? Let's write it in code. Just like that, we created a parabola in the code. What do we see? In the arguments, we have some x which we multiply by ourselves. Accordingly, we do not know what value x will have when we work with this method. When we describe the body of this method, we work with any possible value of x, and here we write that we multiply x by itself. So when we call the function with 5 value, for example, it will return 25. When we call the function with 10 value, it will return 100, and so on. You see, methods or functions are abstractions in themselves. It's just a set of actions that we perform for certain values. At the same time, we don't know for which specific values. Methods can also be used to shorten the code. For example, we have such a code like this. We see that the same lines are repeated many times. In programming, it is always better to do as few repetitions as possible. We can put this code into a new method without arguments, which will not return anything. In this case, we will replace the duplicate code with calls to the new method. If we know what will be executed in this method, then the code will be cleaner for us. Let's summarize the results. A method is just a set of actions to reduce code that works with abstractions and do not carry any specific meaning. Understanding what a method is the key for programming. Ask your questions in the comments below the video if you still don't understand what the function is. I will try to answer everyone, I promise. I hope you have become closer to your dream of becoming a programmer. Good luck with your studies.